Frank is a former Special Forces operative who now works as a getaway courier for criminals, transporting packages from one point to another with absolute precision. He's survived this long because of his 3 unbreakable rules. Rule 1, never change the terms of the deal.
Rule 2, no names.
And Rule 3,
never open the package.
this time he's hired to deliver a package on a long-distance trip. He parks at the pickup point, the package is loaded into his trunk, and he drives off just like any other job, never to make contact with the package. But halfway through the trip, he gets a flat tire. When he opens the trunk, he sees something move inside the bag. It's a human, and it's alive. Tempted, but still determined to follow the rules, he pushes the bag aside and changes the tire. But hours into the drive, guilt creeps in. During his lunch break, he grabs the package a drink and breaks Rule 3. Inside the bag is a young and beautiful Asian woman, tied up and terrified. He cuts a small hole in the tape and feeds her a drink through a straw. Then he seals the bag again, closes the trunk, and continues the delivery. But she refuses to stay quiet, kicking and banging on the car till he finally stops again. She says she needs to pee.
You want me to do it in your car?
So Frank ties a rope to her and lets her go into the bushes. Minutes pass, and there's still no sign of her. When he follows the trail, he finds the rope tied to a tree branch. She's escaped. He tracks her down and carries her back to the car. But when he arrives, 2 police officers are standing right by his vehicle, and he's holding a tied-up woman over his shoulder. There's no explanation for this. A fight breaks out, and Frank takes them both down with ease, shoving them into the trunk alongside her. He finally reaches the drop-off location and delivers the package to a cold-blooded European businessman named Wall Street. Frank assures him he never looked inside the bag.
You open the package.
Rule 3, never open the package. I like that.
Before leaving, Wall Street offers him one more job, deliver a heavy briefcase. Frank accepts the job, receives the coordinates, and drives off. But unbeknownst to him, the briefcase contains a deadly explosive meant to kill him before he reaches the drop-off point. He stops for another lunch break, and on his way back, just a few steps away from the car, there's a knock at the door, followed by... The gang opens fire and he jumps for cover. A fight breaks out, but he takes them down with brutal precision. Then, like a swarm of angry bees, more men pour in from every direction, swinging axes, machetes, and anything they can grab. Frank fights them unarmed, slipping between blades, blocking strikes, and taking the occasional punch to the stomach. One by one, they fall. The last man bursts in, firing wildly, but Frank kicks him straight to the floor, enraged that Wall Street isn't there. He fires into the ceiling and walls out of pure frustration. Then he hotwires a car from the garage and tears off down the road, but he's not alone. A head suddenly rises from the back seat. Frank slams the brakes so hard she almost flies out the window. He drags her out and speeds off, leaving her sitting in the middle of the road. But guilt hits him instantly. With a frustrated sigh, he reverses back, pops the trunk, and puts her inside and drives off. Back home, he cuts her restraints, gives her food, and heads to bed. However, instead of escaping, she wanders around and finds his old military medals and photographs, finally understanding who Frank truly is. The next morning, she's all smiles, offering cupcakes, serving tea, trying way too hard to be helpful. Frank immediately senses she has ulterior motives, but her motives will be the least of his troubles because Wall Street is on his way, and he means business. Then there's a knock at the door. It's a detective investigating the exploded car and the 2 dead officers found in the trunk. Frank claims the car was stolen during a grocery run. To his surprise, the girl backs him up, saying she picked him up on the road.
I saw him walking along the dark road.
As the detective inspects her supposed car, he almost notices the dented front bumper, but the girl's clinginess to Frank makes him uncomfortable, so he leaves. There's a spark between them as they stare in each other's eyes. Little do they know, the only real spark there is the guided missile barreling towards the building. The explosion is enormous, and they dive under a table as a steel beam crashes down on them. Bullets tear through the walls, forcing them to roll across the floor for cover. The gunfire stops. Silence. Then another missile roars toward them, this time straight into the kitchen. It hits the oven and detonates. Frank slams the lever on a hidden panel, dropping them into a secret underground shaft just in time. Outside, the gang prepares a final missile. Frank and the girl jump into an underwater escape tunnel as the house collapses like dominoes above them. Frank grabs 2 hidden oxygen tanks, and together they swim through the passage until they emerge in the pool of a nearby mansion. Dripping wet, they strip off their soaked clothes to grab dry ones. But when Lai sees Frank's physique glistening in the light, she can't help but take off her clothes.
Wait. Why are you making...
No more questions.
Frank's intense wall crumble, and the 2 share a bed, just hours after barely escaping with their lives. We then cut to Frank and Lai at the police station, explaining to the detective how their house magically blew up. They claim they went for a swim on an isolated beach and returned to find the place in flames, so they have no witnesses to corroborate their story.
That's the point of a romantic swim. Who wants witnesses?
The detective steps out for a moment. Lie instantly jumps on his computer and starts searching up information about Wall Street. The detective returns and she doesn't get the time to close the tab. When they leave, she assumes they're going to hunt down Wall Street, but Frank lives too much of a reserved life to go hunting the man who tried to kill him. To him, the man thinks they're dead and he'd like to keep it that way. Lie can't hold it in any longer. She reveals that Wall Street isn't just a corrupt businessman, he's deeply involved in a human trafficking operation which involves 400 innocent people, including her father and sister, trapped in a shipping container. And the only person who knows the container number is Wall Street. Tears well in her eyes as she begs for help. Frank tries to resist, but her desperation breaks him. As Wall Street enters his office, he's quickly jumped and held at gunpoint.
Hello. Surprise.
They search the office but find nothing. Just then, a voice echoes through the intercom. Her father is on his way up, the same man she swore was trapped in a shipping container.
Your father was in a container.
Yes. I mean, no. Stay where you are.
As her father walks in, it's revealed that he and Wall Street are partners in the trafficking business. Their partnership has been rocky, and Wall Street kidnapped Lie to gain leverage over him. Before Frank and Lie can react, the intercom voice warns that the police are on their way up. With no options left, they knock Frank unconscious. But by the time the detective arrives, the traffickers have already spun the story. They claim Frank kidnapped Lie, intending to blackmail them. Frank wakes up in a prison cell. This time, he tells the detective every detail about the human smuggling ring. But with the chain of command, paperwork, and warrants, it'll take months for the police to act. And by then, those 400 people could be gone. So he makes a decision. He leaves the job to Frank. They quietly plan an escape. Frank takes the detective hostage in front of the other officers, forcing a stage walkout that looks real enough to fool the entire station. Outside, the detective drops him at the shore. Frank boards a small boat and speeds off toward the port. Using his military experience, he searches through rows of cargo containers, pressing a stethoscope against metal doors, listening for any sign of life. But a guard suddenly appears and he's forced to fire a shot which warns everyone of his presence. Soon guards swarm from both sides. Frank is outnumbered. He yanks open a container door, using it as a shield to block one side of the attackers. He fights the guards trapped behind it, one by one, before slamming the door shut and locking them inside. But this delay costs him. The real containers begins driving out the port, and Frank takes off sprinting. He runs up the stacked containers and leaps, barely catching the side of the moving truck as he hangs on by the fingertips. The driver spots him and swerves wildly, scraping against road signs. Frank is forced to let go, dropping onto the roof of a passing bus. No sooner does the bus pull into the station is he attacked by an army of gang members. He fights off some, but they chase him down, trapping him inside an empty bus. In the tight, cramped space, Frank proves why he's feared. He dismantles them one by one, elbows, knees, takedowns, until the entire pack is sprawled across the aisle. As he rushes out, a higher-ranking fighter blocks his path. This one is strong, too strong. Frank struggles, then goes for every man's weak point. But he's still overpowered. Just then, more men show up. Thinking fast, Frank kicks over a barrel of oil. The slick floor sends the gang sliding everywhere. He rips the brakes off a nearby bicycle and straps them to his shoes, turning himself into a makeshift skater. Now with mobility on his side, he glides across the oily floor, weaving through enemies and knocking them down with precision. More guards arrive, guns blazing. Frank dives, sliding across the oil like a penguin on ice while bullets zip over his head. He grabs a guard and uses his body as shield for the bullets before escaping into the water below. But the guards aren't done. They dump a barrel of oil into the water and set it ablaze. Frank stays submerged, even pulling air from the fallen guard's mouth just to survive long enough for guards to leave. Finally, he resurfaces and sets his sights on the main convoy, but his car breaks down on the road. He spots a low-flying plane and holds the pilot at gunpoint. The pilot flies him up and he dives out, parachuting perfectly on one of the cargo containers mid-chase. The parachute falls onto the windshield of one of the trailing escort cars, causing a massive crash. Frank kicks out the driver of one of the trucks and takes control. Wall Street and Lie's father fire wildly at him. While the father keeps him distracted, Wall Street sneaks around the side of the truck. He bursts through the passenger door and tackles Frank, and the two fight violently in the moving truck. Wall Street wraps an arm around Frank's throat, choking him out. Frank still steers the truck with his foot while fighting for his life. Wall Street kicks him through the front windshield, sending him flying out, but Frank isn't finished. He catches the underside of the truck at the last second, hanging on for dear life as Lie's father rain bullets on him. He takes out the driver, sending the car swerving off the road. He climbs up the truck, and this time he sends Wall Street flying out for good. Frank manages to bring the truck to a stop, but a gun is suddenly pointed at his head. It's Lie's father. After taking Frank deep into the mountains, a shot is fired, but it's Lie, who shot her own dad to save Frank's life. Authorities soon arrive, and the hundreds of people in the truck are finally brought to safety. And that's a wrap. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And with that, see you on the next one. Goodbye.